Everybody. So we're going to continue on today with our learning about the Civil War and specifically the fight with slavery and abolitionists. Yesterday, we learned that another cause of the Civil War was the abolitionist movement. The group of people like Harriet Tubman, Harriet Beecher Stowe, Jermaine Logan, other people that were abolitionists trying to help stop slavery. Today, we're going to learn about some more that went on with lawmakers and find out what the effects of some of their decisions were. And then we're going to go on to learn some more about how you feel about those decisions. So, if you will, look at this page, Compromise Leads to Violence. It says, Congress tried to settle the slavery issue with compromises. As new territories applied to enter the Union, however, slavery continued to divide lawmakers and the American people. Compromise of 1850. The U.S. victory in the War with Mexico of 1846 to 1848 brought large areas of land under U.S. control. In 1849, California applied to join the Union as a free state. This would change the balance of 15 free and 15 slave states. As in 1820, neither side wanted the other to gain control of the Senate. Southern lawmakers refused to admit California. In the end, Congress agreed that the Compromise of 1850. This allowed California to enter the Union. In return, Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Law. This law forced Americans to return runaway enslaved people to the person who had held them or go to jail. Many Northerners were angered by this law. So a couple of things I want to point out. We learned a couple days ago that it was really important for the United States to keep balanced the amount of free enslaved states that they had. At the time of the Missouri Compromise, there were 11 and 11. The Missouri and Maine joined, and there was 12 and 12. And now we're hearing there's 15 and 15, but California wants to enter. They're ready to become a state in 1849, and I hope you remember what happened then, the gold rush, right? So the gold rush brought enough people to California to make it a state. All right, so what they end up doing is they allow California in as a free state, but in turn, basically, Congress says, then we're going to have to pass a law that's fair to us, the people that are supporting slavery, and they call it the Fugitive Slave Law. And this law means that even if you were escaped and you are free in the North, maybe your parents had you while they were free in the North, and so you were born free, they could actually come after you and take you back. And you're going to look at more about this later, but a lot of people in the North were angered by this law, and it put the fear into African Americans that were living in the North. So this compromise was quite the deal. If we continue to read on in our book, the next thing we're going to learn about is what's going on in Kansas. And I want you to focus on what are the effects of the Kansas-Nebraska Act. That's another act we're going to learn about. You can see at the top of the page the effects of what the map is going to look like after the Kansas-Nebraska Act. But again, I want you to be looking for some effects. You're going to have to record those later. It says Kansas-Nebraska Act. In 1854, Congress created two new territories, Kansas and Nebraska. Under the Missouri Compromise, neither territory would allow slavery. This changed when Senator Stephen Douglas of Illinois introduced the Kansas-Nebraska Act. In this act, Douglas used the term popular sovereignty. This meant that people, not the federal government, would vote to accept or ban slavery. This act overturned the Missouri Compromise. So before, if one state came in, another state, they tried to do something for another state. So if one came as a slave state, then they tried to get one coming as a free state. With the Missouri Compromise, we remember that nothing north of the Missouri southern border could come in as a slave state. And now what they're saying is we're going to let the people vote. It's not going to be about the line that they made for the Missouri Compromise. It's going to be about the people voting, which in a way seems like a great idea. Let the people decide. However, we should probably read on to find out what the effects of those things are. In the bottom, it says new political party. The passage of the Kansas-Nebraska Act led Northern abolitionists to form a new political party, the Republicans. A lawyer from Illinois named Abraham Lincoln joined the Republican Party. Lincoln believed slavery was wrong, but he did not call for it to be abolished immediately. Lincoln wanted to stop slavery from spreading to new states. So this is where Abraham Lincoln enters the picture as far as on a national level. And he becomes part of the Republican Party, which we still have today, and so do the abolitionists that are wanting to end slavery. All right, so Bleeding Kansas is the name of the next section. Like I said, we're looking for effects of the Kansas-Nebraska Act. When we start with the title of a section called Bleeding Kansas, that probably doesn't indicate that it's going to be a very positive effect. Okay, it says, after the passage of the Kansas-Nebraska Act, many Southerners moved to Kansas. They came to vote under popular sovereignty. Northern abolitionists responded by moving to Kansas. Suddenly, armed settlers supporting both sides of the issue flooded the area. Violence finally broke out in 1856 when settlers who favored slavery burned the free town of Lawrence, Kansas to the ground. A few days later, abolitionist John Brown and his sons killed 5 Southerners. Newspapers began to describe the territory as Bleeding Kansas. The violence in Kansas did not become all-out war, but it was a preview of events to come. So you guys, it's very important to understand this. They said people will be able to vote in Kansas for whether they want slavery or not. So what that did was that drove people in from other states that supported both sides of the issue. And now you have abolitionists moving in, you have people that want slavery moving in, and they're all living in the same place fighting for one issue. Bleeding Kansas was a very appropriate term for what happened. It was, a lot of people that didn't get along, basically. All right, so you can look at the map again and see what is going on. The Kansas territory is up here in the yellow. That's the area where we're talking about now. Okay. If you continue to the next slide, you're going to see that I wanted you to list 3 effects of the Kansas-Nebraska Act. That's the one we just read about. If you need to go back to 253 to find those effects, that is perfectly fine. Okay. The next thing you're going to do is learn a little bit more about that fugitive slave law. There's a short video clip on history.com that talks about the fugitive slave law and how it affected people. And what I want you to do after you watch that video clip is do you think that is fair, the fugitive slave law? Why do you think it's fair, or why don't you think it's fair? Okay, we were going to do a reader's theater about that. So like a play basically, but we're not going to get a chance to do that together. So we'll go ahead and watch that video instead. I hope to see you back here soon. If you have any questions about your assignment today, please let me know. Have a great day, guys.